Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Reading News So Your Boo Boo series. I'm gonna be continuing First Samuel. And yeah, we had to read 10 chapters because we missed the day. But now we're doing it on time. So yeah, let's do it. Jonathan's victory. Also, I think we're going 14-2. So here, 4 plus 5 is 9. So we're doing 5 chapters a day. Add the 10. So yeah. Okay, we're going to chapter 19. I know how to do math, guys. Come on. I played all these basics before I started recording. Okay, come on now. Like, I see y'all hating on my math skills in the comments. Like, bro. Anyway, I'm saying that like I even have comments. Ain't nobody commenting on these, but you know what? It's whatever. Hey, all I'm saying is underrated. This is a gem. Watch, my channel's gonna blow up like 10 years later. But yeah. Anyway, on one day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to his young armor bearer, "Come, let us go over to the Philistine garrison on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Saul was staying in the outskirts of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree in Migron, and with him were about 600 men, and Ahijah, the son of Ichabod's brother, Ahitub, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest at Shiloh, was wearing the ephod. And the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Between the passes by which Jonathan sought to cross over to get the Philistine garrison, there was a rocky crag on the one side and a rocky crag on the other side. One crag was named Bozez and the other Sineh. The one crag was on the north in front of Michmash, and the other on the south in front of Geba. Jonathan said to his young armor-bearer, "Come, let us cross over to the garrison of these uncircumcised men. It may be that the Lord will work for us. For there is nothing to prevent the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few." And his armor-bearer said to him, "Do everything that is in your heart, mind. Here I am with you in whatever you think best." Jonathan said, "See, now we are going to cross over to the Philistine men and reveal ourselves to them. If they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand in our place and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come to us,' we will go up, for the Lord has handed them over to us, and this shall be the sign to us." When both of them revealed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines said, "Look, Hebrews. Look, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden themselves." So the men of garrison responded to Jonathan and his armor-bearer, Come up to us and we will tell you something," Jonathan said to his armor-bearer. "Climb up after me, for the Lord has given them into the hands of Israel." Then Jonathan climbed up on his hands and feet, and his armor-bearer following after him. The enemy fell before Jonathan in combat, and his armor-bearer killed some of them after him. That first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor-bearer made was about 20 men with about half a plow furrow in a plot of land, the area of which a yoke of oxen could plow in a day. And there was trembling in the Philistine camp, in the field, and among all the people. Even the garrison and the raiding party trembled in fear. And the earth quaked, and it became a trembling and terror from God. Saul's watchmen in Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away. And they went here and there. Then Saul said to the people with him, "Take account and see who has left us." When they had taken account, behold, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were missing. Saul said to Ahijah, the priest, "Bring the ark of God here, bring the ark of God here." For that time the ark of God was with the sons of Israel. While Paul talked to the priest, the commotion in the Philistine camp continued and increased. So Saul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." Then Saul and all the people who were with him rallied and went into the battle. And behold, every Philistine man's sword was against his companion in wild confusion. I know that had to be wild. Anyway, now the Hebrews who were with the Philistines previously, who went up with them and all around in the camp, they also turned to be with the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the men of Israel who had hidden themselves in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines had fled, they too pursued them closely in battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle spread beyond Beth Aven. Saul's foolish order. But the men of Israel were hard pressed that day, because Saul had put the people under a curse, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food before evening, and before I have taken vengeance on my enemies." So none of the people ate any food. All the people of the land came to a forest, and there was honey on the ground. When the people entered the forest, the honey was dripping, but no man put his hand to his mouth to taste it, because the people feared the oath of Saul. But Jonathan had not heard when his father put the people under the oath. So he put out the end of the staff that was in his hand and dipped it in the honeycomb. And then he put his hand to his mouth, and his energy was restored. But one of the people told him, "Your father strictly put the people under an oath, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food today.'" And the people were exhausted and hungry. Then Jonathan said, "My father has troubled the land with this foolish curse. See how my energy is restored because I tasted a little of this honey? How much better would it have been if only the people had eaten freely today from the spoil of their enemies which they found? For now the slaughter among the Philistines has not been great." They struck the Philistines that day from Michmash to Ajalon, and the people were very tired. When night came and the oath ended, the people rushed greedily up the spoil. They took sheep, oxen, and calves and slaughtered them on the ground, and they ate them raw with the blood still in it. What the heck? Y'all are freaking animals. Then Saul was told, "Look, the people are sinning against the Lord by eating the meat with the blood." And he said, "You have violated the law and acted treacherously. Roll a large stone to me today." Saul said, "Spread out among the people and tell them, each one of you bring me his ox or his sheep and butcher it properly here and eat, and do not sin against the Lord by eating the meat with the blood." So at the night each one brought his oxen with him and butchered it there. And Saul built an altar to the Lord. It was the first altar that he built to the Lord. All that was kind of Saul's fault, by the way. Then, well, there's no kinda, it just was his fault. Then Saul said, "Let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder them until the morning light, and let us not leave a man of them alive." They said, "Do whatever seems good to you." Then the priest said, "Let us approach God here." Saul asked counsel of God, "Shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you hand them over to Israel?" But he did not answer him that day. And Saul said, "Come here, all you who are leaders of the people, and let us find out how this sin causing God's silence happened today. For as the Lord lives who saves Israel, for even if the guilt is in my son Jonathan, he shall most certainly die." But not one of all the people answered him. And he said to all the Israelites, "You shall be on one side, I and my son Jonathan will be on the other side." The people said to Saul, "All right, do whatever seems good to you." Therefore Saul said to the Lord, the God of Israel, "Give a perfect lot identifying the transgressor." Then Saul, I almost said Paul. Then Saul and Jonathan were selected by lot, but the other men went free. Saul said, "Cast lots between me and my son Jonathan." And Jonathan was selected. Saul said to Jonathan, "Tell me what you have done." So Jonathan told him, "I tasted a little honey with the end of the staff that was in my hand. Here I am. I must die." Saul answered, "May God do so to me, and more also, if I do not keep my word. For you shall most certainly die, Jonathan." But the people said to Saul, "Must Jonathan, who has brought this great victory in Israel, be put to death?" "Nah, far from it. As the Lord lives, not one hair of his head shall fall to the ground, for he has worked with God this day." So the people rescued Jonathan, and he was not put to death. Then Saul stopped pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. You should have annihilated them. Anyway, constant warfare. When Saul assumed control of the kingdom of Israel, he fought against all his enemies on every side: Moab, the son and descendants of Ammon; Edom, the kings of Zobah; and the Philistines. Wherever he turned, he inflicted punishment. He acted valiantly and defeated the Amalekites and rescued Israel from the hands of those who had plundered them. Now Saul's sons were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchishua. The names of his two daughters were these. The name of the firstborn was Merab, and the name of the younger, Michael. No, Mitchell. The name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam. The daughter of Ahimaaz. The commander of his army was named Abner, the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. Now the war against the Philistines was severe, brutal, and relentless all the days of Saul. And whenever Saul saw any mighty or courageous man, he rescued him for his staff. Saul the Saul. That'd be good. Saul's disobedience. Uh-oh. I have a feeling I already know what this is going to be about. Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you king over his people, Israel. Now, listen and pay close attention to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts' armies, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he set himself against him on the way when Israel came up from Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and completely destroy everything that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey." So Saul, not Samuel, what? Anyway, so Saul summoned the people and numbered them at Telaim 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. Saul came to the city of Amalek and set an ambush in the valley. Saul said to the Kenites, "Go down from the Amalekites, so that I do not destroy you along with them. For you showed kindness to all the Israelites when they went up from Egypt." So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. Saul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt. He captured Agag, the king of the Amalekites, and alive, though he totally destroyed all the rest of the people with the sword. Saul and the people spared, and that's not sparred. Sparred is 2 R's. Spared Agag and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, the lambs, and everything that was good, and they were not willing to destroy them entirely, but everything that was undesirable or worthless they destroyed completely. Samuel rebuked Saul. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, saying, "I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned away from following me and has not carried out my commands. Also, I think I mentioned this in, I think when we read Genesis with the regret thing. Obviously, the people were like, "We want a king," and then God was like, "All right, go ahead." And then they got a king. It's like it's like a guy's not contradicting himself here, as much as people want to think. It just means that he's deeply or regret, because people are gonna be like, "Oh, you regretted it? Oh, you made a mistake." No, it just means he's deeply troubled by the fact that he's even king in the first place. But the Israelites chose this, and he even warned them through Samuel, as we've read. So whatever happens is Israel's fault. If anything, this just shows how compassionate God is. But bro, my cat's over here making noises, man. Like, what are you doing, Izzy? What are you doing? Don't breathe at me. Okay. If I'd show y'all my cat, but I don't have a camera anymore. I don't have a webcam anymore. I used to. All right. I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned away from following me and has not carried out my commands. Samuel was angry over Saul's failure, and he cried out to the Lord all night. When Saul got up early in the morning to meet, when Samuel got up early in the morning to meet Saul, he was told, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up for himself a monument commemorating his victory. What? Then he turned and went down to Gilgal. So Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, "Blessed are you of the Lord. I have carried out the command of the Lord." But Samuel said, "What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, in the lowly of the oxen which I hear?" Saul said, they have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we have destroyed completely. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stop, and let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." Saul said to him, yeah, go ahead, speak. Samuel said, "Is it not true that even though you were small and significant in your own eyes, you were made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed you king over Israel? And the Lord sent you on a mission and said, 'Go totally destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are eliminated.' Why did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but instead swooped down on the plunder with shouts of victory and did evil in the sight of the Lord?" Saul said to Samuel, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord and have gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me. And I've even brought back Agag, the king of Amalek, and have completely destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took some of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the best of things that were to be totally destroyed, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal, Samuel said. Or, no, that's Saul said. Samuel said, Has the Lord as great a delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obedience to the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to I did not say head. I thought and let me start over. And to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as serious as the sin of divination, fortune telling, and disobedience is as serious as false religion and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Then Saul said to Samuel, "Okay, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the command of the Lord and your words. because I fear the people and obeyed their voice. Now, please, pardon my sin and return with me so that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, Nah, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. As Samuel turned to go away, Saul grabbed the hem of his robe to stop him, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to your neighbor, who is better than you. Also, the splendor and glory and eminence of Israel will not lie or change his mind, for he is not a man that he should change his mind. Saul said, I have sinned, but please honor me now before the elders of my people and before Israel, and go back with me, so that I may worship the Lord your God. So Samuel went back following Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. I wonder if it did anything. Then Samuel said, Bring me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came to him cheerfully. And Agag said, Surely the bitterness of death has come to an end. Samuel said, As your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel cut Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Dang! Yo, even my cat looking like, dang, that really happened? No, she is looking at me, though. It's funny. She's under my desk. Then Samuel went to Ramah, but Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, for Samuel grieved over Saul, and the Lord regretted that he made Saul king over Israel. Like I said earlier, he was deeply, deeply grieved. Anyway, Samuel goes to Bethlehem. The Lord said to Samuel, How long will you grieve for Saul when I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have chosen a king for myself among his sons. But Samuel said, How can I go? When Saul hears about it, he'll kill me. He will kill me. And the Lord said, Take a heifer from the herd with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. You shall invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do after that. And you shall anoint for me the one whom I designate. So Samuel did what the Lord had said and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the city came trembling to meet him and said, Do you come in peace? And he said, In peace, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourselves and come with me to the sacrifice. He also consecrated Jesse and his sons and invited them to the sacrifice. So it happened when they had come, he looked at Eliab, the eldest son, and thought, Surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab, and had him pass before Samuel. But Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen this one either. Next, Jesse had Shammah pass by, and Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen him either. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to Jesse, The Lord has not chosen any of these. Then Samuel said to Jesse, Are all your sons here? Jesse replied, There's still one left, the youngest. He's tending the sheep. Samuel said to Jesse, Send the word and bring him, because he will not sit down to eat the sacrificial meal until he comes here. David anointed. So Jesse sent word and brought him in. Now he had a ruddy complexion with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. Okay. The Lord said to Samuel, "Arise, anoint him, for this is he." Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed David in the presence of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward. And Samuel arose and went to Ramah. Now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented and terrified him. Saul's servants said to him, "Behold, an evil spirit from God is tormenting you. Let our Lord now command your servants who are here before you to find a man who plays skillfully on the harp. And when the evil spirit from God is on you, he shall play the harp with his hand, and you will be well." So Saul told his servants, "Find me a man who plays well and bring him to me." One of the young men said, "Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, I have seen a son of Jesse the me." Am I reading this right? No. Because okay, this just shows how reading through OBS is just not a good idea. No. All right. Anyway. Gonna continue. "Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, who is a skillful musician." This is where I was, right? Hold on. I mean, who plays the Lord? Yep. Okay. A son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, who is a skillful musician, a brave and competent man, a warrior, discerning, prudent, eloquent in speech, and a handsome man, and the Lord is with him. So Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, "Send me David, your son, who is with the flock." Jesse took a donkey loaded with bread and a jug of wine and a young goat and sent them to Saul with David his son. Then David came to Saul and attended him. Saul loved him greatly, and later David became his armor bearer. Saul sent word to Jesse, saying, "Please, let David be my attendant, for he has found favor in my sight." So it came about that whenever the evil spirit from God was on Saul, David took a harp and played it with his hand, so Saul would be refreshed and be well, and the evil spirit would leave him. Goliath's challenge. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and when they were assembled at Succoth, which belongs to Judah, and they camped between Succoth and Azekah in Ephes Damim. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and they camped in the valley of Elah, and assembled in battle formation to meet the Philistines. The Philistines were standing on the mountain on one side, and Israel was standing on the mountain on the other side, with the valley between them. Then a champion came out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and his span. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor overlapping metal plates, which weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had a bronze shin protectors on his legs, and a bronze javelin hung between his shoulders. The wooden shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam. The blade head of his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron, and a shield bearer walked in front of him. Goliath stood and shouted to the battle lines of Israel, saying to them, "Why have you come?" Hold on, wait. What should we do from? Why have you come up to draw up for battle? Am I not the Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail, let's just say I prevail again, hold on, wait. But if I prevail again against him and kill him and humiliate him, then you shall become our servants and serve us, and only us. Again the Philistines said, "I defy the battle lines of Israel to this day. Give me a..." Oh, never mind. Wait. Again the Philistines said,
I deny the battle lines of Israel this day. Give me a man so that we may fight together.
When Saul and Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. What? Okay, well, yeah, he's like yeah, okay, about to fight a tower, basically. No. Now, David was the son of Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. Jesse was told in the days of Saul, advanced in years among men. His 3 older sons had followed Saul into battle. The names of his 3 sons who went to battle were Eliab, the firstborn, next to Abinadab, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest. Now the 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's flock at Bethlehem. The Philistine Goliath came out morning and evening and took his stand for 40 days. Then Jesse said to David his son, take your brothers an ephah of this roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread and run quickly to the camp of your brothers. Also, take these 10 cuts of cheese to the commander of the unit. See how your brothers are doing and bring back news of them. Now they are with Saul and the men of Israel in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. David accepts the challenge. So David got up early in the morning, left the flock with the keeper, picked up the provision, and went just as Jesse had directed him. As he came to the encampment, as the army was going out in battle formation, shouting the battle cry, Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle formation, army against army. Then David left his provision in the care of the supply keeper and ran to the ranks and came and greeted his brothers. As he was talking with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath named Goliath, was coming up from the army of the Philistines, and he spoke these same words again, and David heard him. When the men of Israel all saw the man, they fled from him and were very frightened. Oh gosh. Apparently even my mouse is scared. The men of Israel said, have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. The king will reward the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter in marriage, and make his father's house family free from taxes and service in Israel. Then David spoke to the men who were standing by him. What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes the disgrace of his taunting from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God? The men told him that is what will be done for the man who kills him. Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard what he said to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David. And he said, why have you come down here? With whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption over confidence and the evil of your heart, for you have come down in order to see the battle. But David said, what? What have I done now? Was it not just a harmless question? Then, okay. So this is obviously this is teenager. That's teenager attitude. That's definitely a teenager talking. Then David turned away from Eliab to someone else and asked the same question. And the people gave him the same answer as the first time. Okay. Okay. David kills Goliath. When the words that David spoke were heard, the men reported them to Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, let no man's courage fail because of him, Goliath. Your servant will go out and fight with this Philistine. Then Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight him, for you are only a young man, and he has been a warrior since his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant was tending his father's sheep when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock. I went out after it and attacked it and rescued the lamb from its mouth. And when it rose up against me, I seized it by its whiskers and struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them. since he has taunted and defiled the armies of the living God. David said, the Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Go, go, and may the Lord be with you. Then Saul dressed David in his garments and put a bronze helmet on his head and put a coat of mail armor on him. Then David fastened his sword over his armor and tried to walk, but he could not because he was not able to use them. He was not used to them. And David said to Saul, I cannot go with these because I am not used to them. So David took them off. Then he took his shepherd's staff in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones out of the stream bed and put them in his shepherd's bag which he had, that is, in his shepherd's pouch. With his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. The Philistine came and approached David with his shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked around and saw David, he derided and disparaged him because he was just a young man with a ruddy complexion and a handsome appearance. All right. What are you trying? Yeah. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with this shepherd's staff?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine also said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and to the beasts of the fields." Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the corpses of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and to the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that this entire assembly may know that the Lord does not save with the sword or with the spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will hand you over to us." When the Philistine rose and came forward to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand into his bag and took out a stone and slung it, and it struck the Philistine on his forehead. We don't get all the details, but Goliath must have not been very scared. So, I know we see those videos of like people, I know you've seen the videos of like the people shooting the slingshots and showing how powerful it is, and then people in the comments are like, Goliath's been real quiet since this dropped, and it's like, clearly, he wasn't scared. I mean, you don't have all the details, of course, but still, if I feel like if he wanted to, he could have quite easily just, I don't know, not grab the stone out the air, obviously, because that junk is going too fast. But I feel like he could have just I don't know, like made David flinch. Like he could have made him flinch, like pretending like he was about to do something, but no. He was like, "Go ahead, do it. What is that gonna do?" And I'm sure it would have done nothing if David was an atheist. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure it would have done nothing if he was an atheist. But yeah, all right. And it struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone penetrated his forehead, and he fell face downward on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck down the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in David's hand. So he ran and stood over the Philistine, grasped his sword and drew it out of his sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their mighty champion was dead, they fled. The men of Israel and Judah stood with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and the gates of Ekron. And the fatally wounded Philistines fell along the way to Shaaraim, even as far as Gath and Ekron. The sons of Israel returned from their pursuit of the Philistines and plundered their camp. Then David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. When Saul saw David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the captain of the army, "Abner, whose son is this young man?" And Abner answered, "By your life, O king, I do not know." The king said, "Ask whose son the young man is." When David returned from killing Goliath the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. Saul asked him, "Whose son are you, young man?" And David answered, "I am the son of your servant, Jesse of Bethlehem." Jonathan and David. When David had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was bonded to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as himself. Saul took David that day and did not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan stripped himself of the outer robe that he was wearing and gave it to David with his armor, including his sword, his bow, and his belt. So David went out wherever Saul sent him, and he acted wisely and prospered, and Saul appointed him over the men of war, and it pleased all the people and also Saul's servants. As they were coming home, when David returned from killing the Philistine, the women came out of all the cities of Israel singing and dancing to meet King Saul with tambourines, songs of joy, and musical instruments. The women sang as they played and danced, saying, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s." Then Saul became very angry, for this saying displeased him. And he said, "They have ascribed to David 10,000s, but to me they have ascribed only thousands. Now what more can he have but the kingdom?" Saul looked at David with suspicion and jealousy from that day forward. Saul turns again. Everything was going good until envy had to ruin it. Now it came about on the next day that an evil spirit from God came forcefully on Saul. Also, that says Saul turns against David. And he raved madly inside his house while David was playing the harp with his hand, as usual. And there was a spear in Saul's hand. Saul hurled the spear, for he thought, "I will pin David to the wall." But David evaded him His name must have been Garbage. Now Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him, but had departed from Saul. So Saul had David removed from his presence and appointed him as his commander of 1,000, and he publicly associated with the people. David acted wisely and prospered in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. When Saul saw that he was prospering greatly, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved him because he publicly associated with them. Then Saul said to David, "Behold, I will give you my older daughter Merab as a wife. Only be brave for me and fight the Lord's battle." For Saul thought, "My hand shall not be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him." David said to Saul, "Who am I, and what is my life for my father's family in Israel, that I should be the king's son-in-law?" But at that time, when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, she was instead given to Adriel, the Meholathite, as a wife. David marries Saul's daughter. Dang, you already hate him. Now, that's not saying Michael. That says like Mikal. Now Mikal. I'm just gonna call her Michael, or not Michael, because Michael is Michael. So that's like Michael. Mitchell. Mitchell makes more sense, actually. I said that earlier. How did I forget? Anyway, David marries Saul's daughter. Now, Saul's daughter, loved David. And when they told Saul, it pleased him. Saul said, "I will give her to him so that he may become a snare," bad influence, source of trouble to him, "and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." So Saul said to David for a second time, "You shall be my son-in-law today." Then Saul commanded his servants, "Speak to David secretly, saying, 'Listen, the king delights you, and all his servants love you. Now then, become the king's son-in-law." So Saul's servants spoke these words to David. But David said, "Is it a trivial thing in your sight to become a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and insignificant?" The servants of Saul told him what David said. Then Saul said, "This is what you shall say to David. The king wants no dowry except 100 foreskins of the Philistines to take vengeance on the king's enemies." Now Saul's intention was to cause David's death at the hand of the Philistines. When his servants told David these words, it pleased him because the king's son-in-law. It pleased him to become the king's son-in-law. Before the time for the marriage arrived, David arose and went. He and his men and killed 200 Philistine men. And David brought their foreskins as proof of death and presented every one of them to the king so that he might become the king's son-in-law. So Saul gave him Michal, his younger daughter, as a wife. When Saul saw that and knew that the Lord was with David and that Michal, his daughter, loved him, Saul was even more afraid of David, and Saul became David's constant enemy. Then the Philistine commanders, princes, came out to battle, and it happened as often as they did, that David acted more wisely and more success than all Saul's servants. So his name was highly esteemed. I was just looking at this because I was thinking that, oh wait, 21 again? But no, that says 30, 31. Anyway, David protected from Saul. Now, Saul told his son Jonathan and all his servants to kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, greatly delighted in David. So he told David, "Saul, my father, is seeking to kill you. Now then, please, be on guard in the morning and stay in a secret place and hide yourself. As for me, I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and I will speak with my father about you. And if I learn anything, then I'll tell you." Then Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father, and said to him, "May the king not sin against his servant David, since he has not sinned against you, and since his deeds have been very beneficial to you. For he took his life in his hand, and killed the Philistine, and the Lord brought about a great victory for all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then would you sin against innocent blood by killing David without a cause?" Saul listened to Jonathan and swore an oath, "As the Lord lives, he shall not be put to death." What? So Jonathan called David and told him all these things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence, serving him as previously. Then there was war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines, and defeated them with a great slaughter, and they fled before him. Then an evil spirit from the Lord came on Saul, and as he was sitting in his house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing the harp with his hand. Saul tried to pin David to the wall with the spear, but he escaped from Saul's presence. So that Saul only stuck the spear into the wall. Then David fled and escaped that night. Then Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, so that he might kill him in the morning. But Michal, David's wife, told him, "If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." So Michal let David down through the window, and he fled and escaped. And Michal took the household idol and laid it on the bed, put a pillow of goat's hair in its head, and covered it with clothes. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, "He is sick." Then Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, "Bring him up to me on his bed if necessary, so that I may kill him." You could have hid the fact that you wanted to kill him. Anyway, whatever. When the messengers came in, there was the household idol on the bed with the quilts of goat's hair and its head. Saul said to Michal, "Why have you deceived me like this and let my enemy go, so that he has escaped?" Michal answered Saul, "He said to me, 'Let me go. Why should I kill you?'" So David fled and escaped and came to Samuel in Ramah and told him everything that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and stayed in Naos. Saul was told David is at Naos in Ramah. Then Saul sent messengers to take David, but when they saw the group of prophets prophesying and Samuel standing and presiding over them, the Spirit of God came on the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. When Saul was informed, he sent other messengers, and they also prophesied. So Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied as well. Then Saul went to Ramah himself, and came to the great wall that is in Secu. And he asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" And he was told, "They are at Naioth with the prophets in Ramah." So he went to Naioth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God came upon him too, and he went along continually prophesying until he came to Naioth in Ramah. He also took off his royal robes and armor and prophesied before Samuel, and laid down naked all that day and night. So they say, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" So clearly they didn't know how the Holy Spirit worked. I mean, I'm not even gonna say we do now, but I'm just saying that they must have thought that like it's like a skill. It's like a skill to prophesy. No, that's just the Spirit of God. But yeah, that's really about it. God bless.